In this video, we're going to talk about components and what a component is and how we can create one within Svelte, and also how we can access and use props. Props, as you may or may not know, are properties that we can pass from one component to another component, and it's a little bit different in Svelte. So let's get started as we create our first component and pass some props. And now you're going to get to see one of the reasons why I absolutely love working in Svelte is just how easy it is. It's easy at every turn. Every time you try to do anything, it just sort of works. And so, for instance, if we wanted to create a new Svelte component, I would invite you to try to do it. Just try to make a component, try to import it, try to use it. And one thing you might be surprised about is try to do this without doing any documentation or anything. You might just get it to work. And I wouldn't be surprised if a decent percentage of people who tried just got it to work, because there aren't that many gotchas here. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new file. And this is simply just going to be quiz.svelte. Okay. And inside of this quiz, we're simply going to have, we can, in here, let's just simply for now have a div. I don't know why that did dir. Let's do div. Let's try that once more. Div. There we go. And inside of this div, we can have an h2 that says my quiz. Okay, so this is just about the fanciest component ever. Let's go ahead and use this component inside of app.svelte. Now, the first thing we need to do is bring back some of those script tags we so quickly removed from here, and we're going to want to import something. We're going to want to import quiz from and then quiz. Now, in React land or other land, you might be used to just writing import blank from blank, right? Quiz, and you have to omit the JS part of things. You don't have to write it. Well, if you try to do this like this will not work. We need the .svelte in here, okay? So one thing to keep in mind that you do need import from quiz.svelte. I don't love that this word is longer than the component name, but that's just, that's how it is. So we have a quiz component here. Let's go ahead and make this a self-closing component. We can just throw it anywhere. You can throw it down here. No having to worry about ridiculous things like fragments or additional arrays or any of that stuff that you might think about. We can just write straight up HTML without even thinking about it. We're just importing quiz from quiz.svelte. Next, we are just able to use it simply by calling it as a component. With that all in mind, let's head to our page, and you'll see that we have something that's not quite working. Now, what's going on here? What's the problem? It says quiz is not defined. If you paid attention, you'll know that, well, we need to specify the directory, which is // because it's the current directory that we're in. This import syntax, this is JavaScript. After all, this is the same import syntax that we're used to, and we do need to give it a directory path here, and that directory path is going to be from our current directory. After that, you should see we certainly have our my quiz. So just like that, we've written our first Svelte component. And that was super duper easy. And since that was so easy, let's go ahead and talk props. We did a little bit of props with this whole main.js thing, but that was through this interface and not through the standard Svelte component interface like you might be used to. For instance, let's say my quiz, okay? Let's go ahead and actually give this a quiz name here. And this quiz name is going to be set through props. So once again, we need script tags because we're going to be doing some JavaScript. And you'll remember before what we wanted to do was export a variable that we're creating. And even before we export it, let's just go ahead and say const, we can call this quiz name in camel case like this. And quiz name will just be a string that says, we can just have it say Scott quiz. Okay. So Scott quiz. And then if we wanted to access this variable, we simply just need to use our template syntax. Now, keep in mind, we're going to be diving in significantly more into this template syntax, but for right now, we're just going to say quiz name. And if you save this like so, you'll think that this should just say Scott quiz, and it does. So this is the 101 step of adding props. Props are handled just like any other variable. We created our variable here, And here it is. Now, the difference between React, things are coming in to the component, just like Vue.js, things are coming in. If you don't have those reference points, what you need to know is that here we have some JavaScript we define in a variable. And by saying that we can export it, right, export quiz name, means that we'll then be able to modify it within our component by passing in props. Okay, now props are simply just properties that get passed down through a component. So by making quiz name available as a prop, you can see if we head to app.svelte, and instead of importing or anything like that on our quiz component, we can just say quiz name, just like we do in other front-end frameworks. And so quiz name can just be new quiz, save this, and let's check this out. Let's see if this thing worked for us. If we come here, you can see that this still says Scott Quiz. Now, we briefly talked about this having some sort of override property. We'll double check and confirm that quiz name is exactly what we want it to be. And of course it is. And we can see that this is still not working. Okay, so why is that? You'll notice we don't have any errors here. Let's go ahead and dive back into our code. Let's head back into here. We have a quiz. And you'll notice something kind of interesting here. In the previous example, we did export let, and here we have export const. Let's see if changing this to let makes a difference, okay? And you can see it in fact does make a difference, because what happened was when we said export a constant variable, it says, hey, this is a constant variable. This cannot be reassigned. Now, if you know anything about constant variables, you'll know that the circumstance in which they can be modified is kind of murky if you don't know the details. But at its very basics, you cannot reassign a value. And what we're trying to do is reassign a value when we're passing a prop down in here. So you're going to want to be cognizant of using let here, or I believe a var should work the exact same. To be honest, I'm one of those people that hasn't touched var in a long time. It looks like var works just fine. I'm not exactly solidified in that decision as being the right way. It's just a personal preference. So we do need to have a variable that can be reassigned in here, but this does give it a default value. For instance, you'll realize that if we don't have quiz name in here, or check this out, we have a second quiz because we can do that with these components. You can see we have Scott Quiz and new quiz, okay? So this is how props work in Svelte. This kind of thing is a very interesting concept in front-end frameworks, and you'll notice exactly how simple it is. We just pass a value down here, and we're able to declare it right here and use it inside of our template syntax. Now, we're going to be diving, like I said, a bit more into the template syntax in later videos, but in the next video, we're going to be talking a little bit about reactivity in Svelte. It's one of the coolest things about Svelte. It's one of the things that makes Svelte what it is, and you'll see exactly how elegant it is in the next video. So follow along as we dive into reactivity in Svelte.